My name is Chung. I'm from Korea. So now what I want to emphasize here is that I heard the previous sessions in the morning, and many people, businessmen, industry, and government is very much focused on how to stimulate economic growth and provide jobs for the people in Sri Lanka and stimulate the economic growth. Yeah, this is the primary concern of all government, all people, and all businesses as well. But the question is, then who will take care of this social sustainability and ecological sustainability? So these are the different types of questions that we also have to answer, not only just the economic dimension. This is a Sri Lankan pavilion in the Astana Future Energy Expo, which is going on now. Sri Lanka has a quite a big pavilion explaining the Sri Lankan policy on future energy. The reason I'm showing this is that because while you're talking about the stimulating economic growth, what will happen to your energy supply and demand in the future? Who will be taking care of it? I know that Sri Lanka is importing quite a lot of energy. So if we have a mega projects, then where the energy will be coming from? Then it will make your energy deficit again deeper, right? So this is another challenge. This is a view of the Astana Future Energy Expo, which I gave. This is the Astana Economic Forum, where I gave a talk about low carbon energy future. And I was very privileged to have the chance to talk to sitting next to the president of Kazakhstan, Nazarbayev. Here are the main messages of myself, that the high carbon brown growth model is failing. This is a kind of not a good message for you. I'm sorry to have to explain this, or the depressing message. I want to emphasize one point. The high carbon economy, Korea, for example, is a typical classical success story of high carbon economic development and industrial development. But now we are not only suffering ecological issues or social issues, but also we are suffering economic issues. Maybe you will be surprised. What I mean by economic issues of challenges of high carbon brown growth model. The main crisis and challenge for high carbon brown model is this model is losing economic dynamism. It no longer can generate enough jobs and enough income distribution. So this model is already losing momentum. Where the new momentum, economic momentum, can be found? This is a very serious question. The second point, low carbon greener growth is about, whenever I talk about this, many people are saying that, oh, this is only for rich countries, not for developing countries. And we don't have time to spend about this. But my main point is that low carbon greener growth is about generating higher economic growth and more jobs. It is not just to save the planet. Why is it so? Because as I said earlier, high carbon economy is losing the momentum. It does not generate enough jobs. While low carbon green economy is generating more jobs and actually stimulating more vibrant economic dynamism. This is one of the reasons why Sri Lanka, not only Korea, but many other developing countries, has to think about it. But whenever I say about this, many people, especially conventional economists, coming up with the argument that, hey, investing in low carbon and green pathway costs money and time, and it is a burden on the economy. This is the main message. That's why people are still hesitant about this. I call them as a short-termism economics. If you are using the current economic knowledge, I believe there must be economists here, economic doctors here. But economic doctors are using CG model to predict that, carbon emission reduction will reduce our economic growth by certain years. These are the typical exercise that conventional economists are doing. But I don't believe those numbers, and I argue that we should not trust them anymore. We have to think about long-termism economics, which means that current economic knowledge has in no way are capable of predicting 20, 30 years later. For example, if Sri Lanka introduces $100 of carbon tax, what will happen to Sri Lankan economy? Actually, no economist can tell about it. Because the current economy, I don't want to go on, spend too much time. Now, next point. Green growth, many governments talking about saying that, oh, we don't have money and technology. So how can the Sri Lanka can do about it? My argument is that green growth is not about money and technology. Money and technologies are everywhere. It's available. In the Wall Street, there are trillions of dollars there. Technologies are everywhere. There are firms eager to sell and deploy wherever they want to go. It's there, available. What is not available is that it is enabling policy framework and economic system change. Since we are just pushing the brown economic system and thinking about creating just some green actions, that does not work. We have to fundamentally reformulate our economic system. Economic system means visible and invisible structures. Visible structure is like buildings and our city design, transportation, all these are the visible things. And also invisible things means tax system, energy efficiency standard, all these are invisible structures. So we have to completely reframe our economic system. So green growth is not just a matter of some green actions. It's about green reform. Without a fundamental reform, I don't think it's possible. And then point 5, then who will do that? How can you do it? Clearly, it's not the job of the private sector. It's the job of the government to lead the transformation, and especially closing the time gap, because these social, ecological goals, like climate change, is a long-term goals, while the role of the business is about short-term profit. So there's a time gap, and the government has to close this time gap. Otherwise, it will be impossible to move over to our next transformation. So, but at the same time, in many countries, private sector, in many cases, choose to resist and oppose the transformation. But I think that it might be better for the business to look into the green business opportunity. Transformation actually offers whole lot of wide-ranging of business opportunity. So it's much better than resisting and sticking to brown model, but cooperating with the government for transition to a new economic model and looking for a new green business opportunity. Then many countries are asking me, what is the secret of success of this? Is there anybody who succeeded on this? Yes, there are some countries, not too many. But if you look at the Northern European countries, these countries are the model for investing for a long term. And now they enjoy highest level of competitiveness, productivity, and as well as happiness level as well. And also in the developing world, I am thinking about Costa Rica as one of the potential candidates for you can think about. Then, to me, one of the most important points is that long-term consistency. Because as we know, in democratic political system, the change of government happens every 3, 4, 5 years. This is the critical challenge for making this kind of transition. But the secret of Costa Rica's success is very surprisingly, in spite of very frequent changes of government in Costa Rica, they maintain the same consistent policy of reforestation and the fossil fuel tax, and also improving ecotourism. That policy has been maintained for a long time, 20, 30 years. Now Costa Rica is enjoying. So social consensus is key. And lastly, I was thinking about what can be done about Sri Lanka for one interesting area. Many people are talking about ecotourism in many parts of the world, especially in the developing world. I was thinking about healing tourism might be a good idea for Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is rich in spiritual values as well, not only just a natural ecosystem. So if you harmonize, balance with the natural ecosystem, rich natural ecosystem with very rich spiritual values such as Buddhism, and then combine them and making a brand like a healing tourism and offer it to the world with a very high brand and high value added package of tourism. I think it will make sense for the future for the, just like the case of Costa Rica, ecotourism is now main industry in Costa Rica. So I'm just offering one idea for you. Thank you very much.